biggest topic right now is about the fiasco that happened when Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the president of Ukraine, went and had a bit of a drama with our president, President Donald Trump. Okay, this is where he says, "Can I butt in?" And he becomes really rude.
So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014
and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
that's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire, all of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine? Did you say what problems we have?
Unbelievably rude.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God
This is one of the worst things he said.
God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, you said thank you. You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I answer?
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't been
in this
alone.
cabinet.
You haven't been alone.
In this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and you men are brave, but they had to use our military. If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over In 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again,
I tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
that
American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look. If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make.
It's pretty awesome how strong the president is. Finally, we have a leader in the White House, the one that we've been praying for. Now, I've listened to commentaries for nearly 24 hours on this, and I really don't want to say things once people have something good to say, but I feel like nobody understands what's going on from the commentaries. So we want to do a little bit of a prophetic unveiling of what's going on here and to explain why I predicted this. I'm not surprised. There's not going to be peace with Ukraine. There's not going to be peace in Europe. Let's give you a prophetic perspective. Okay, let's see. This is how the people in the room reacted. Rubio says that this is a fiasco and Zelenskyy should apologize. Okay, and any reasonable person would be saying, that's what we expect right now. You walk into my home, you talk to the most powerful man on earth in a disrespectful way, interrupting him, talking over him, justifying your right, telling him he's wrong, is rude. He should apologize, Marco Rubio says. All right, ain't gonna happen. J.D. Vance says, you should say thank you. Right? Biden did not give you the javelins because he wanted the war to keep going. If you give him, it's a real dilemma. You want the war to keep going. But you need to weaponize Ukrainians to keep the war going. But if you give them too powerful a weapon, then the war could end. Can you imagine the dilemma of absolutely wicked people? So they have to balance the death toll. You know, people are going to die, but not too fast, not too quickly, not too suddenly, so it's all over. We got to kind of trickle it. Let the bleeding continue. It's amazing. Like, it's the more I study end time, the more I need God's grace to cover my heart and my mind to understand what's going on. Vice President Vance says, you should say thank you. Okay, well, he didn't get that. He didn't get that. Not for the javelin, not for the supposedly $350 billion that Trump said we've paid him, and that may be some other under-the-table deal that we don't know, but officially, Congress has approved $175 billion. Think around there. So you should say thank you, and he didn't. And even after he went on Bret Baier and other interviews, and now he's in London hanging out with the Prime Minister of the UK, so that goes to tell you who's our friends. He hasn't said thank you, hasn't apologized. And then Trump says that you don't have the cards. And rather than being humble, which is what you would do, like, he's not stupid. People are saying, how come he's so stupid? He doesn't know how to behave. He knows how to behave. You just don't understand what's going on. So rather than being humble, he says, we're not playing cards here. Well, that's stupid, right? I mean, you understand there are idioms and just expressions that we're not talking about literal cards. We have to explain metaphors to you, and you're an actor, you're a comedian, you don't understand metaphors. No, he understands, but he's prodding and provoking, and this is intentional. When you look at the way that the American media responds to this, it says, this is the most stunning political mistake I've seen. So when I look at these people who go on Fox News and they say things like that, I just think, why are you even there? You have no idea what's going on. This is not a mistake. This was an act well played. Well done. He's going to be congratulated in Europe. He has to be, because he was sent to do this. But the American commentators, without an international perspective, you just think, well, that was very rude. We are the best country on earth, and Trump's the most powerful man. Oh, you owe us an apology. We kind of think almost like backyard street fight or something. And mom's going to have to come and say, you two need to clean up and kiss and make up and go have a picnic together after this. That's not what's going on here. So that's all I've seen in the American media is things like that. It's stunning. Why is it stunning? You look at Europe. Here's the response from Europe. European leaders rally behind Zelenskyy after Oval Office blow-up. Now, normally, if there's a bad PR stunt, you as a leader have to think, do I side with that, or do I just stay away from that and let it cool off? But all of them unanimously are ready to rally behind, meaning this is not a surprise at all. Right? If somebody does something really stupid, you have to think twice. Let it blow over, right? A mature person, let it blow over. Maybe I'll come in, be the hero after, bring peace, reconciliation. But they're all ready. They're all ready to stand behind Zelenskyy. As they have been, if you notice, the only man to disgracefully unveil a foreign nation's flag in our Congress. How despicable is this? Well, they had this plan all along, and this is what they're going to say. You're going to hear it over and over. From the left, Zelensky's a hero of the free world. Trump's a coward and a lapdog for Putin. We're back to the Russian conspiracies. He's a lapdog. He's a lapdog for who? He's like the ultimate offensive, aggressive alpha male. You couldn't get a more offensive person leading the country, right? Well, let's agree on that, even if we like him. So lapdog is made up. There's something else going on. What is going on? That's what we want to know. Ursula, head of the European Union, von der Leyen. Your dignity honors the bravery of the Ukrainian people. Be strong, be brave, be fearless. You are never alone, dear President Zelenskyy. We will continue working with you for a just and lasting peace. Just read it the opposite way, and that will be the truth. Roberta Metsola says, your dignity honors the bravery of the Ukrainian people. Be strong, be brave, be fearless. You are never alone, dear President Zelenskyy. We will continue to fight, working for you for a just and lasting peace. Antonio Costa says, your dignity honors blah, blah, blah. Vladis Dombrovsky, your dignity, blah, blah, blah. It's a script. And they were ready for this while we are still reeling and processing the rudeness, the lack of diplomacy. Come on, do you think that's what's going on? Kim Jong-un did a better job than him, is what Americans think. Right? It looks like Kim Jong-un, the greatest menace, youngest guy with his hand on the button to a nuclear weapon, knew how to behave in front of Trump better than Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Do you really believe that's true? Something else is going on. Adam Schiff says, a hero and a coward are meeting in the Oval Office today. And when the meeting is over, the hero will return home to Ukraine. How can you speak about your own president that way? How can you speak about a foreign leader? What are you getting from this foreign leader of the most corrupt country in Europe? So you're going to hear over the next few weeks and I think it will last maybe about a couple of months at most, and the war will break out. We're looking at around Shavuot. They'll have a meeting about Israel. So about Shavuot, Pentecost, by that time, there should be war all over. Most Americans don't understand it. We're missing the key points of what's going on, and no one has yet explained prophetically what is going on. Let's start with the most obvious thing, okay, that we can all agree on. Zelenskyy is, what is he? What's his profession before this? Yeah, he's an actor. And who does he work for? He works for, it says it in the background, when he used to wear a necktie and a suit, he works for the Europeans or the World Economic Forum. He works for unelected billionaires who want to control the world, and America and Russia are two countries that are in the way. Europe has always had this dream of the Pax Romana. Europe has always believed that the greatest civilization on earth was the Roman Empire. And whenever they kind of join together again, because they find it very difficult to get along with each other, they speak different languages and have different customs, and they're always fighting each other. And they fight a long time. Remember back when we studied European history, there'd be a 30-year war. They couldn't even name the war. So many people fight each other, switch sides. Some of the kings and queens already died. They keep going. So they have no name for the war. They simply just put the duration of the war, 30-year war. That's not enough. They have a 100-year war. There's another war in Europe. Wars forever. And so Europe has this thing where they want to be superior. They do believe that they're superior. America gets in the way. Russia gets in the way. Asia is now getting in the way. So Zelenskyy works for the Europeans who romanticize. This is where we get the word. They have delusions, false ideas. They romanticize the Roman Empire. Now, we who are Christian, we don't romanticize the Roman Empire because the Roman Empire was full of corruption, greed, lies. And we saw it's recorded in our Bible, the false trial of one Lord Jesus Christ. And that's just one out of many. They did so many things that was bad, and they never really had the peace that the history books talk about, and they weren't really that glorious. But we romanticize. So, I mean, if you come on tours with me, we go to Turkey, you see how their hygiene was, how they went to the bathroom, how they shared sponges to clean their butts. I mean, come on. And that was glorious. I'm sorry to be a bit crude, but it's there, right? I will never take away the aqueduct, right? But other people had it. The Aztecs, the Mayans, and other people had them as well. Had beautiful aqueducts. You can see those. So he's an actor, and an actor has one role. He's to act in public. And so what I propose to you is that this was staged. This was staged. And I believe that this was confirmed by Marco Rubio because he said, quote, "You don't see all the things that led up to this." That means that he had prodded and prodded. He tested the waters. And by the time they got out in public, Trump and Vance still maintained their cool and still were led to believe, they were given a carrot, they were led to believe this is going to end well. Have you ever been with people like that? They totally set you up, but they're going to record you or they're going to entrap you. Even Christians do this to each other. This has happened. Right? So Marco Rubio says a lot more was going on. Zelenskyy, I believe, was sent by the Europeans to start war, not end it. Zelenskyy did this in 5 acts. Number 1, he doesn't thank the USA. He knows that thanking the president costs nothing. And it's a big deal to a guy like President Trump. So he makes sure to not thank. Act 1. Number 2, he's come to demand more. He has no leverage whatsoever. 1.2 million Ukrainians have died. 8 million have left Ukraine, once a beautiful country. And he doesn't care. He's come to demand more. If you know that you don't have anyone backing you up, would you be so brash? No, before he came, he knew he had all of Europe backing him up because all of Europe romanticized forever about the Pax Romana. They will always, if they get together, I was saying, if they get together, suddenly they're the Holy Roman Empire. Ain't holy, ain't Roman, and ain't an empire. But you study that. Holy Roman Empire. Right? Charlemagne had that. Why do they keep doing that? Because the devil's got this spirit in them, in the top leadership. I'm not talking about all Europeans, but in the top leadership, they all are controlled by this spirit, this megalomaniac spirit of empire building, and it doesn't matter how many people die as long as they get the power. So it's been going on a long time. Number 3, his third act is to blame Trump. He said in that televised conversation at the Oval Office, you did nothing in your first term to stop Putin. You see that Trump was trying to be polite, like, was that 14, 15, 14? And he said, as soon as he said 14, Trump said, no, I wasn't there for that. I wasn't there. He's being very gentle, very polite, but he knows what's coming. A lot of people, when you talk to them, they set you up for what's coming next. Journalists do this all the time. Whenever you have a journalist talk to you, they butter you up first. Oh, I've seen you on social media. You're very influenced. I'd love to have an interview with you. Your videos touch so many millions of people. They butter you up. And then they slaughter you. That's what they do. That's what they do. So you just be aware of that. Trump saw that he was being set up. And he was trying to say, no, I wasn't there. If it's me, he kept saying, if it's me, that war would have never happened. That invasion would have never happened. Putin did invade under Obama, under Biden, did not invade under Trump, and then invaded under Biden. I'm getting it mixed up. So the order. But that's his claim. He's trying to say, don't blame me. So he goes for the jugular, Zelenskyy, and he blames Trump. He knows the guy's going to get mad. He's an alpha male. He's not a coward, and he's going to put up with it. Number 4, he then talks to J.D. Vance and belittles the administration's diplomacy by saying it won't work. And number 5, the worst one of all, and this is where Trump really loses his cool, is when he threatens the country. And he says, oh, you have these nice little 2 beautiful oceans, so you don't feel anything that's happening, but you're going to feel it soon. Wow. Little puppet from Ukraine with no money and 1 million of his own men dead is going to talk like that without being backed up by Europe? You're mistaken. Europe sent him to do exactly what he just did. And all the American commentators have misread it because they don't understand prophecy. They don't understand the timeline we're in. They don't care about the book of Revelation. We are in the book of Revelation right now. And this is going to lead precisely to what the book of Revelation says. I'm going to show it to you, and your jaw will drop because it's already been confirmed. So Trump comes out, very nice. He still says, people ask, is there any chance Zelenskyy can come back to the White House? Any chance for peace? And Trump comes out and he says, Zelenskyy just wants to fight. But if he comes back and says, I want to make peace, I want a ceasefire, then we can talk again.
Is our nation on the decline? Will America be judged? Or will God have his own great reset? What if God is about to birth Christian nations all over the earth? What if Christians are about to be given authority to rule with the King? Are you ready? Christians have lost a theology of justice. The church has forgotten the template for good government. The time has come for transformation. Pastor Steve Cioccolanti's book, Trump's Unfinished Business, contains 10 prophecies to save America and any nation whose leaders will obey. Get a copy of Trump's Unfinished Business, 10 Prophecies to Save America for yourself by going to Amazon.com or scan the QR code on your screen. Listen to what readers are saying. Alan Parker, president of Justice Foundation, said, "We need pastors and preachers to read this book and apply the law of God correctly and preach it again to America and to the world." Dr. Dennis Lindsay, CEO of Christ for the Nations, said, "The insights of this book will provide hope for the future of America and preserve its calling as a lighthouse to the nations." And Rod B. wrote on Amazon, "Excellent, insightful, and offers solutions to a broken world." Get Pastor Steve Cioccolanti's best-selling book on Amazon.com or scan the QR code on your screen today.
Words matter. When Trump says he wants peace, we have to ask the question, what does peace mean to Trump? Anybody want to take a stab at this? What does peace mean to Trump? The answer is very easy, very obvious. There's always one answer for Donald Trump. Peace means prosperity. The answer to everything is economics to Trump. He's a businessman. He's a businessman who found himself, by the grace of God, in the Oval Office. He's been graced by God. He's in over his head as far as non-economic things. Economic, he's the number one. He's the best. But he really needs a prophetic counsel. He needs prayer, but not just prayer. He needs to hear how the Bible applies to this situation. And we got verses for you. The Bible applies to this. So peace to Donald Trump means everybody's richer. That's peace. Would you agree? All right. Now, this does not mean the same thing to other people. The same word will be used, but you will be confused when you're talking to different people because they'll say the same word and mean something totally different. I'll give you an example. In Islam is called the religion of peace. Like we are the religion that brought more peace in the world, Christianity, but we don't call ourselves the religion of peace. Islam says we are the religion of peace. Question, what does peace mean to Muslim? What does Bismillah mean? Control, okay. Control under Islam. Okay, well, it actually means something very specific, and no Muslim will disagree with you. Peace means submission to Allah. So when they say we are a religion of peace, they say it with a straight face because it means all the world must one day submit to Allah, or death, or if we feel kind towards you and you're kind of acting as our house cleaners and chefs and, people we need to serve in our country, we will let you live, but you must pay the infidel tax. Now we have peace. So by definition, no Muslim will disagree with you. That is the definition of peace. Submission to Allah is peace. If the world does not have peace, it is simply to a Muslim because not every American has yet submitted to Allah. Not every Jew, not every Christian has yet submitted to Allah. Never mind the Buddhists and the Hindus, they just want those people dead. But the people of the book have a chance. The Jews and the Christians can convert or pay an infidel tax and you can live. That is peace. So then when you go on Fox News and you have these people go on and they make commentaries, why did this happen? I mean, this is the religion of peace. And they will say, yes, we are the religion of peace. And this is completely against Islam because all we want is peace. And Americans scratch their head, and you've heard another platitude that's been served to you on international news, and nobody understands the word peace means you must submit to Allah. You must bow to Allah. So if it gives us bad press, we can lie to you and say, well, we didn't really mean for it to happen this way, but in the end, we are a religion of peace. So it still furthers the goal. Anything that furthers the goal brings the Islamic peace. All right, so now we're going to apply this to Zelenskyy. What does peace mean to Zelenskyy? It's very simple. You put yourself in his shoe. Trump hasn't done this. I haven't heard any commentator do this, but you put yourself in his shoe. If we achieve peace in Ukraine, it means Zelenskyy loses power. Because the only way he stayed in power is to cancel elections. He hasn't had an election in many years. The last time there was an election due, he canceled it by military law. So he says, we're under emergency martial law, so for this reason, we cannot have an election. However, even Winston Churchill won an election during World War II. You can run an election during war. There's no problem doing that. But he says, under the guise of martial law, we don't need elections. So he is truly a dictator, not authorized by the people, and very unpopular. Very unpopular. The saying right now, and pardon my French, is if the Ukrainian men are saying, If we find Zelenskyy on fire, we would not waste our urine on him. That's how they feel about him. So what does it mean if we have peace? He's out. So why in the world would you expect this man to come accepting any olive branch, accepting any peace or truce? No, he's in power because there is chaos. You understand what's happening now? I've never heard any commentator say this. I don't understand it. And so it's left to me, then I'll say it. What does peace mean to Europe? You got to think about this. What does peace mean to Europe right now? One world government. Now, European government. Yeah, it's amazing. Europe is so I guess you can say like racially supremacist that when they start stuff, okay, they just name it world and international, right? They made it, but it's just called world. Now, I want you to imagine if Thailand, we built a bank and we called it the Global Financial Bank. We're the Global Financial Bank. Would you accept that? You must take loans from us. You'd be like, who are you? Call it the Thai Bank. Why are you calling it the Global World Bank, right? But Europeans do that. They'll make up stuff, and they don't call it they used to call it something limited, but now they're very brash. Whatever they do, it's world, like World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum is a German or Swiss forum. Call it a Swiss forum. They don't do that. They call it World Economic Forum. So if Indonesians did it or Japanese people do it, you would take great offense. Japanese have a forum. They call it the World Social Forum. Like, that's not world. It's just Japanese. Okay, so for peace to Europe. What does it mean? Peace to Europe means you must realize that Europe has a bit of a chip on their shoulder, a little bit like the Canadians. Peace means that the USA wins. So they're forever competitive. The euro was supposed to dethrone the dollar. It never did it. It never will. It cannot. They disagree too much. They have too many different economies. It's rigged against them in a way. They're just very disunified. So peace in Ukraine would mean that the US wins, Rome, their fantasy of Rome, loses, and their banks are going to collapse and their governments are in debt. So they do not, peace is the farthest thing from their mind because of where they're at. All right, let's go to NATO. What would peace in Ukraine mean to NATO? And Trump has even threatened not to fund NATO, to even pull out of NATO, but they're going to keep going. If there's peace in Ukraine, it means NATO is irrelevant. And it could mean that NATO would cease to exist. Now, think about that. You're sitting in your boardroom, you're getting a cushy salary, you get lots of kickbacks and bribes, and somebody says, let's have peace. We're going to end all wars. And you become irrelevant. What do you think? If you're a Christian, you would say, well, for the sake of peace on earth, I would accept it, but these people are not Christian. They're truly satanic. Truly, they do not count the lives of others as precious. So US aid was an important thing. I did a whole thing on YouTube about this. US aid exposed the truth. It exposed the international model. And this is where we're sometimes the bad guy, and we have to accept this a little bit. But it turns out US aid is not an aid or a charity organization. It's a CIA front. And it has a proven model of regime change. The way that you change regimes that you don't like is through bribery, corruption, and deception. But Trump comes in to interrupt all of this, bribery, corruption, deception, by exposing the money trail, by DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and then stopping. You know, one of the first things he did was he stopped all foreign aid for 90 days. He called 90-day freeze. And at first, people didn't understand what's going on. This is where Trump is a genius. He understands that all the turmoil, all the wars, it's being funded through in the name of charity. And so we need to freeze that first, and then we'll deal with the ledgers. And it turns out they'll make billion-dollar transfers and forgot to put a memo on it. And if you did it on a $601 check and didn't notate what it's for, you can go to jail. And I know a Christian lady to this day fighting the IRS. She cannot leave the country. Her husband's gone on all sorts of trips. She cannot leave the country because the IRS withholds her passport, her American passport. And we're supposed to be the freest country on earth. Meanwhile, they transfer billions. Oops, we forgot to notate what that was for. Unaccounted. Amazing. So US aid really helps us to understand what is happening, how the money is flowing, how the transgender agenda, how the anti-Christian agenda, how the gay marriage agenda is happening. It's through American money, funneled through US aid. So then what we want then is God's peace. Now, do you know what God's peace is? Do you know the word for peace? Say it together with me. Shalom. Say shalom. Shalom means peace. Do you know what it means? Because remember, everybody has their own definition of peace. Would you like to know God's definition of peace? Ready? Here we go. Shalom, shalom. Beautiful word, written beautifully. The Shin, Lamed, Yod, Mem. You can study Hebrew letters pretty fast. They're not that complicated, written pretty. It's the old way of writing it. New way, they write cursive, so it doesn't look like that. Anyway, this is the more biblical way of writing it. You will notice that Sh is a letter, La is a letter, and M is a letter. Vowels aren't there. Vowels aren't there. They don't need to write. It's a kind of, they consider it babyish if you have to write vowels. You write vowels for babies. But when you're mature, you just read the thing. You don't need the little accents and things like that. You might say, well, where's the Vav? The Vav is a bit of a unique thing. The Vav is in God's name, so the Vav just appears. It has its own rule that if it's a E or a O, it has to appear after a certain consonant. It's to me, a little bit complicated to explain, so I won't explain that. So here are the letters of Shalom. Number 1, Shin means teeth or devour or destroy. Is that amazing? The word Shalom starts with destroy. Next, Lamed. It means the staff, looks like a staff, and it means the leader. All right. Vav is just a connector. It literally means and in some sentences, but in a word, it's just a connector, a conjunction in a sentence, connector inside of a word. And it connects to Mem, which many of you know stands for water, but what it also stands for in word picture is chaos. Because the earth was without form and void, and the Spirit was hovering over the face of the deep, and it was the water that represented the chaos. The waters of the flood of Noah represent chaos. So peace in God's mind is to destroy the authority connected to the chaos. God's peace is not kissing up with evil people. It's not sleeping with evil people like Solomon did. So that was a false peace. You can make all sorts of false peace. But God's shalom comes through destroying the authority that is connected to the chaos. And that is why there's no solution for Palestine except to destroy Hamas. Destroy them. But no administration prior to Trump was willing to do that. That is entirely biblical. All right, we're going to wind down here. You will know these scriptures now, but you'll have a different appreciation for them. Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, the Lord Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God." Notice, it's not blessed are the peacekeepers. That's what the world offers, right? Let's compromise. Let's keep the status quo going as long as possible, right? Hamas living next to Israel. How do they deal with it? Peacekeeping. That's what they call it. God does not bless peacekeeping. He blesses peacemaking. And to make peace, you have to destroy the one that is trying to hurt and destroy your family. You have to get rid of that. Blessed are the peacemakers, and we are called and empowered by the Lord Jesus to be shalom makers. We have to be a bit stronger in our understanding. You are called to make peace, and sometimes that peace demands that you confront evil. You give it a chance, you offer mercy, but if you intercede for evil, and that's the only way that you do, and they won't change, at some point, you're no longer a peacemaker, you're a peacekeeper. What do people say when they're frustrated? I just want to keep the peace. But you didn't deal with the injustice that your children felt. You didn't deal with the injustice that your wife complained about. I just want peace. I just want to keep the peace. You see that? God says, no, I want you to make the peace, not keep the peace. Make the peace. And how do you do that? You got to move beyond intercession and go to executing justice. And we don't have any theology about this at all. I am right now the only one actively teaching this, because I just went to a conference in Dallas and I asked the guy who I said, you're the only other guy I know about justice. And he said, no, there's probably like 3 of us, but nobody's covering all the different topics. I just cover abortion. So for him, justice is abortion. I said, what about the rest of our lives? Only got to get justice when we're in the womb. After we exit the womb, we survive and suffer a series of injustices. Nobody going to help us. Nobody in the church, no pastor, nothing in the Bible. What about the rest of our lives? What about family justice? Could we help in this area? You know what Aussie pastors do? I'm sure they're very different from American pastors. Get a divorce in the family. Pastor says, I'm not qualified to deal with this. You need to go and call this number. And that's the number of a psychologist trained in secular Freudianism, totally anti-Christ. Or here's the number of a good lawyer. You need to lawyer up now. And you'll be spending 2 years fighting in court and losing all your shirt. And we have many great rules and models of justice for the family. We have it in the Bible, and we have other countries that do it so differently from America. You can make one, I'm going to give it to you. Trump's Unfinished Business has these 10 things, okay? Trump's Unfinished Business. One of the chapters about family law. You just write in the Constitution, in your state law, whatever, equality of parents, equal rights of children to both parents. Finish. Stop arguing. Unless you're a proven criminal, you love your kids, stop fussing. Don't enrich the legal system, the psychiatry system, and all this. And that's what happens in Sweden. And I watched an interview where somebody asked a judge, how many court cases do you see per year dealing with family law? And she said, what do you mean? And the person had to restate the question. And the female judge says, maybe one, but it's very rare. And so the interviewer, who's not Christian, says, what do you do? I mean, like, people get divorced? What do you do here? Scandinavia. And she, the judge, the secular judge, said, isn't that what you go to pastors for? And I will never forget that. Because if you go to pastors in Australia, they will say the opposite. I'm not qualified to deal with these things. Well, who took that authority away? When did we abdicate our authority to be agents of justice on the earth? We have the standards of morality. We know the Bible. How come we don't adjudicate? Okay, I'll leave that alone. Everyone is missing the point. Everyone is missing the point. And I had a prophet tell me this, that Jesus told him, Jesus told a prophet that, listen to Pastor Steve, because no one is teaching the book of Revelation, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right. A prophet actually texted me and told me that the Lord told him, listen to me on this. All the other stuff, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure about the 4 horsemen. The red horse is galloping, and we're not in the tribulation. So if you think that those 2 things mean the same thing, there you go. That's the first thing to correct. Why did you assume that? Why did you assume we must be in the tribulation for the horses to be galloping? Who taught that? I don't know, but it's not in the Bible. Nowhere does the Bible say, when the tribulation starts, then the white horse will start. Nope, doesn't say that at all. So the red horse is galloping, which means war is coming this year, and the war will be even worse next year. Then and only then will the financial collapse come and the great goal of the Great Reset. So no financial collapse of the US dollar. I've said this. I've talked to big financial advisors that you probably know. They speak at conferences. And I said, there's not going to be any collapse of the US dollar. It's going to get stronger. And everybody's like, no, you're going to buy gold and silver from me. Don't you dare say that. The US dollar is going to collapse, so buy gold and silver from me. I'm not against gold and silver. I'm just saying that's not the reason to buy it. Gold will go up when there's war. That's it. Gold's got nothing to do with inflation. Gold goes up when there's war. Gold is an emotional thing. When you're uncertain, you flee. And by the way, I should add this. Gold is now fleeing Europe and coming to America. It happened. Why? It happened before World War I. It happened before World War II. And it's happening as we speak. So I am very sure of my interpretation that the Lord's given me, that the red horse is here. You do what you like, but if the red horse is here, war's coming, and America is considered right now a safe place financially, because all the wars start in Europe. Europeans started World War I and dragged everybody into it. Europeans started World War II and dragged everybody into it. So why are we doing this again? And the red horse, read it for yourself. Clearly it says, the one that comes on the red horse takes peace from the earth. Okay? Europe, number two, that the people are not getting anywhere on the commentaries that I can hear on the news and elsewhere, is Europe wants war with Russia. Like, let's be very clear. You've got a continent that wants war. Why? Because Europe is broke. It's in debt, and it cannot compete with the United States. It won't compete with China, and it won't compete with the United States. And that bugs them because they're the glorious, racially pure, racially supremacist continent of this planet. They just can't stand it. Well, if they're racially supreme, why are they not economically supreme? Why are they not militarily, politically supreme? So they need to fix this. And the answer happens to be next door because Russia is objectively the richest country on earth. Counting all its resources, it's got more than we have. It's got $75 trillion worth of wealth. That is twice, I think that's twice our debt. Russia alone, if we could take Russia alone can pay our debt twice over. Can you see, if you think like an evil leader, that the only logical thing to do is to take Russia, right? Because we're broke and we're not as good and we can't compete, and the euro never replaced the US dollar. So Europe right now believes that it can win without the USA. It's going to try to do this without Trump. And the fact is Europe will lose. And what it will do is when Europe loses, it weakens Europe for the Islamic takeover, which is predicted in the book of Daniel, where the feet of iron mixes with the component of clay. The iron is the former glory of the Roman Empire, and the clay are all the people, the refugees, coming in dirty and like clay, and they're coming in and they're there to take over. So even though it looks very messy and there's a few car rammings and terrorist bombings, it's not fast enough. Islam wants to take Europe, wants to take it all. So it needs a war in which they're going to look upon this with glee, because Europeans are going to be so foolish that they think they can win against Russia, and they already tried it, right? Adolf Hitler, the guy that every American hates, he has already tried it. And that was why he lost. Like, if he didn't do that, he probably wouldn't have lost. But he lost going into fight Russians. So Europe will lose, and Islam will come, and Muslims will take over. Before Zelenskyy came, he met with French President Emmanuel Macron in an emergency summit without America being present, February 17, 11 days before the fiasco at the White House. You understand that? Why did they have that emergency summit with all the leaders with Zelenskyy? Then, as soon as the fiasco is over, March 2nd, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer hosted Zelenskyy at a summit in London. In other words, if you can piece it together, marching orders were given on the 17th, and the execution of the plan is currently being reviewed and rewarded. Zelenskyy did a great job. And Turkey has not missed this. Only the American commentators see this from a very personal, emotional, like a tit for tat, like personality conflict in the White House. We'll get over this. It'll be all right. We all love peace. But Turkey looks at this and said today, only Turkey, its European Union membership, can break Europe's economic defense deadlock. Erdogan, who's grooming his son, who probably is going to be the Antichrist. That's like my number one candidate for the Antichrist is his son. So Turkey is looking at this chaos and says, this is fantastic. They all want war. They're going to kill each other. They're totally in debt. And the only way out of this is not only that Turkey would revive its old Islamic empire and be the arbitrator for Syria and Iraq and Iran and all that. They obviously want that, right? But not only, they get a freebie. They get all of the Middle East and they get Europe thrown in. And Turkey says, we'll just be waiting for this. And that will be the rise of the Antichrist empire. So you've been taught the Antichrist will come from the Vatican, Brussels, France, Rome. Nonsense. Nonsense. It all started in the Middle East. It's going to end in the Middle East. It's obvious. It's all obvious. I do a tour to the 7 churches of Revelation this year. You can come with me. All the 7 churches are in Turkey. You don't think that's a clue? You think you need a PhD in theology to understand where the epicenter of this is going to be? It's obviously Turkey. And God put it right there in the first 2 pages of the book of Revelation. And we argue over this. We argue because we have an American-centric view. And if we go further than America, it becomes a Eurocentric view. But it's not. The Bible is not a Eurocentric. It's not centered on Rome. Make sense? Okay. All right. How to start a war. Proven formula by the CIA and divorce court. Okay? Here we go. I'm sorry this might touch a nerve for some people, but number 1, you want to start a war, stop all communication. Every lawyer will tell every couple, doesn't matter, they're Christian, non-Christian, they all follow the same thing. I pastored 25 years. I've seen the formula over and over. Some lawyer is going to get one party to stop all communication. When that happens, get ready for war. So they wanted no communication with Putin. He had a RT, Russia Today, was a news source from Russia. You are forbidden to watch RT. That used to be accessible to Americans. That is forbidden. So you live in a free country where you cannot get news source other than what the government approves. Russia Today, RT. Yeah, so that's gone. You can't talk to Putin. You can't hear Putin. You can't hear his own words. So stop all communication. Trump is upsetting them because he's like, I'll talk to Kim Jong-un. I'll go walk the demilitarized zone. Why not make peace? Then peace for him is everybody gets richer. Happy with that, right? They don't think that way. So number 1, stop all communication. You're going to see a cry for this. Don't you dare talk to Putin. Number 2, blame and falsely accuse. You want a war? Start falsely accusing because it makes you mad. At least accuse me on something that is right. But when you falsely accuse, it's just like you have got no words for this. Yeah, Trump's a coward, like the absolute opposite. Number 3, then you set up, instigate, or provoke an act of aggression. I've had lawyers do this to church members. Verbal, like raising your voice, is now called domestic violence in Australia, right? So you gotta make sure that you do something like kill his dog, right? Like literally, it's very sad. I had this happen. A friend of a friend. The lady went to court getting a divorce, and she said in her interim orders, I must have the dog. Everybody knows she hates the dog. The judge says, we always side with the women. She gets the dog. She got the dog and killed him and put him under. Now, like I have a different kind of intercessory prayer for people like that. You know what I mean? Like we're not at intercession anymore. We're way beyond this now when you're that evil. That happens, and it's through the lawyers. The lawyers do that. They push them to do that because you want to instigate a reaction. And a guy who loves his dog is going to get mad. And then he'll do something, and now he's thrown in jail. Because he's thrown in jail, he can't get the kids. And she takes all the money. Marries her, best friend, his best friend or something like that, and takes all the money. Can you see all the injustice going on in the church? I'm talking about the church here, by the way. Am I the only pastor who cares about this? I don't outsource this, I really try, but it's tough because in the end, everybody's just taught, go to court, go to psychologists. And then step 4 is you go to war. But you go to war on these words. You always have these words. For I have no other choice. The lawyers like to use that. That's a phrase. You leave me no choice but to take all your wealth. You leave me no choice but to file a police report that you sexually abuse our children. But you don't. I've had that happen in our church. accuse, again, all from lawyers, and Christian women act no different than absolute heathen women. They will accuse on paper that their ex sexually abuses their children. Can you imagine what a man must feel? You've paid for everything, you raised these kids, and now that's put on paper. Man goes berserk. He's going to get violent. And then that's what we want. We want the violence. We need the violence. Then we can put in the next order. That's how it happens. So this is what's playing out. I'm amazed that as it's playing out in the White House, nobody sees this. I've seen this over and over. It's a tried and tested formula. It's been through divorce court many times, and this is what we're watching. A drama on nuclear scale. On a scale where millions of lives are at risk, we're playing this drama. No different than the small scale. So to prepare, what do? The Bible says, don't be cowardly and don't lie, because they'll have their part in the lake of fire. This is the warning at the end time. There'll be a lot of cowardly people. Don't be a coward in the end time. Don't just say, I want to keep the peace. Say, I want to make shalom. If it takes me confronting evil, offer mercy, offer reconciliation. But if they don't do it, then I'm going to have to confront evil in prayer and in any other way. We cannot be cowards in the end time. We want to bring justice, right? Peace with God is justice must be served. That's how we get peace with God. The price of our sins are fully dealt with on the cross by him, the innocent, dying for us. And then we are declared innocent, because God says we are innocent by the blood of Jesus, by faith. Then we have peace. You see that? There's a protocol, there's a process of how to get peace with God. So that's how you come to Christ. Peace in your prayers. Okay, I told you about praying justice. There's 66 topics, but a lot of it have to do with justice. Peace for me is when I get to travel freely. I feel very at peace. So for me, right now, I believe for the next 2 years, we should be able to travel freely. And then there's going to be a global financial crisis in 2 years, 2027. It's going to start. So for me, I take people to Saudi Arabia. 7 churches of Revelations coming in September. If you've never seen Turkey, come. Don't wait. You know, a lot of things have changed. I've gone to Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia 4 times. Every trip, new restrictions are brought in. It's a construction zone for them. For us, it's like an archaeological artifact. It's an amazing proof that the Israelites really walked through the Red Sea and went there. It's all there. Elim is there. The golden calf altar, the burnt top of the Mount Sinai is there. It's amazing. But every year they restrict something a little bit more. So things change quickly in the Middle East. If you want to see it before it gets all, becomes a construction zone and tourist spot, come now. There's less than 10 cabins left on this one for us. Our tour to Iceland, Norway, Belgium, Holland, London. It's a very big one. Very nice itinerary. And we just disciple you. You say, why do we go like this? Just to get you away. Just to take you out from the routine and hear God. And we've had people on our last trip to Iceland. We had a lady bring her daughter who was not going to church anymore and not talking to her mother. And after about a week together in Iceland, and my daughter was very instrumental. I have a 5-year-old daughter who just loved her and hugged her, loved on her, and just really melted her, with her love. She reconciled with her mother, and now she's helping us in ministry. And that was just literally 6 days in Iceland together. Isn't that amazing? Praise God. So God does that. You just have to be willing to try. If you know any Christian singles that are looking to get married, I'm going to try to solve this problem. Pray that I succeed. I'm going to take them to Arabian Gems. One of the most peaceful places in the Middle East is the country of Oman. It has a lot of little hidden treasures there, beautiful things. And I'm going to take Christian singles is that about 6 days? I think it's 6 days. And input into them, talk about remarriage, dating, whatever stage of life they're in, and just have them date and have singles activities, meet each other. All right, that's called Arabian Gems. And last one is the tour of Thailand. This seems very far for Americans, but we're going to go 10 days, November 5th to 15, 10 days. I'm going to show you north, center, and south. And I'm going to show you why I believe that Thailand is a Goshen. Anyone heard this term Goshen before? Yeah, Goshen means a safe place that when not now, not the war, I think we're going to be safe here. Maybe acts of terror at different places, but we should be safe in Tulsa. You should be safe in Tulsa. But Goshen was a place that was safe during the 10 plagues. So peace, when the plagues come, would mean provision and safety for my family. So I'm actively looking for Goshens. I went around and looked for Goshens all over the world, and I have found something ideal. And we are building a church in the south of Thailand that will be about this size, say fit 200 people comfortably. Okay, maybe this might be a little bit bigger, I don't know, but build a church. I want to build 70 homes, and we've already started. So this is the first Christian community in a relatively unsafe nation of Thailand. It has never had a famine. We can't find anybody who can remember in life or in history of any famine. It's never had a famine. The banking system is very good. It's not the Western banking system. So nobody's ever lost a home, no matter what financial crisis we've gone through. The banks don't come and take your home. See, if I say that to an American, they're like, what do you mean? And they are like, what do you mean banks can take your home? What is that? It's my home, right? It's not the bank's home. It's my home. I'm just borrowing from the bank. It's not your right to destroy my life, right? Okay, so there are systems and there are cultures and there are nations that will seem very foreign. And when things get bad, you want as foreign as possible. So the English-speaking world is bought, controlled by certain people, and they're all on it together. But there are nations that are a little bit outside of those people's control. And generally, the Bible says you're to look for kingdoms. This is my bias, but it's what studying the end times has shown me. When Israel gets in trouble, who are the only two friends left? The kingdom of Jordan, the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. That is not a mistake. That there's something to that, because God's coming to establish a kingdom. And Americans have always been taught to hate kings. And the reason is because you, US aid, and your CIA, and your government can never control kings. So the only obstacle in this world is a king. King plus the dictators. The dictator is like a modern name for kings. If they're good, they're a king. If they're bad, they're a dictator, right? But that's why Americans hate kings so much. And you were mistaught about that. And you should know, because Jesus is a king and he made us kings and priests. So you see that I have to bring this international perspective, because I'm fully aware. I'm educated. I'm valedictorian, educated in New York. I can go to almost any university I wanted to, and I did, and took classes at Harvard, University of Chicago, blah, blah, blah. I understand the system. I understand what you've been told. But the Bible says kingdoms are God's plan. It's his eternal plan. So I'm suggesting, is it possible that the very places you feel foreign and not comfortable with, wouldn't that be the safest places on earth when things really get bad? I'm suggesting, yeah? So the website is goshenlake.org. You can go and have a look at that, and there are plots that are available. But why would God want any Westerner to go to Thailand, buy up a property for cheap? And cheap is like, 100,000, less than 200,000. You can have a 2-story house there. Why would God want you to buy anything in Thailand? What do you think? What's God's ulterior motive? He wants you to get out and spread the gospel. And you can do it voluntarily, which is what he wished them to do. But when they didn't do it, guess what did he do? He turned the heat on. And he allowed persecution on such a scale that what did they do? They finally went out of Jerusalem and went to Judea, Samaria, and the uttermost parts of the earth. So you have to realize something about God. I think you'll agree with me. He doesn't care about my comfort. He does not care about my comfort. He will put me in situations that are totally awkward. He will make me say things that make me look absolutely foolish. He just doesn't seem to care about this. But what I find is, if I'm in the will of God, it works out. But it doesn't always work out for me first. It somehow works out for his whole big plan, right? You need to realize that. It just, because he's thinking of so many more people, He will allow an invasion. He will allow the collapse of the dollar. He will allow any of the above that you cannot imagine, simply to get you out and evangelizing the people that are going to hell. How many lights do we need? How many times do we need to fix the roof and the parking lot? How many bus vans do we need? In this city, I don't want to say what church because I love all the churches here. You replace a sign. You replace a sign, one sign. And I don't want to say which sign because if I tell you the story, you know. One sign was $300,000. $300,000. How many churches could we build in Thailand for $300,000? They won't be big. They won't have all the fancy stuff, but it'll be a church. So we are so spoiled. And when God looks at this, we do have to repent, but it's beyond repenting. We have to move. We have to obey God. It's time to do something. And I don't mean you have to come and live here because I don't even know if I'm going to be there. I'm just preparing it. Okay. If things get bad, okay, I have something. You get the nomad capitalist says, get another passport ready, right? If you got Irish blood, they'll give you Irish citizenship. You can check. You got Israeli blood, they'll give you Israeli citizenship, but Israel is not going to be that safe, right? It's going to be war after war. So it's not very practical for most people to have a second, third passport. And without that, it's very hard. Once the war starts, capital control begins. You can't move your money. All wars are this way. They're played the same way. So when you can move money is when there's peace. Like right now, you can move money. You want to make an investment. Nobody bothers you. But when war starts, capital control is number one. Every country says, we're having war. We know you don't like it, and we don't want you to flee with your money. So they'll stop your bank accounts. It will be, instead of $10,000, it'll be maybe $500. You'll be restricted, right? And you got to answer questions. Why are you doing this? They don't have to answer questions. If they want to move $1 billion to Zelenskyy, they'll do it. But you will have to but explain why you're moving more than $600. So that's what's coming.